I'm just Nick, and this is the Catalinbread CB30. Well, a lot of people, relatively speaking, a lot for, I guess, the world of boutique effects pedal designers, a lot of people have attempted to capture the timeless magic of a Vox AC30 in pedal. And I think it's not an easy thing to do. I'm not a Vox aficionado, but I've played through a few in my time in a variety of contexts. And it's actually kind of hard to pin down what's so cool about them. It has something to do with the frequency response and the timbre of the thing. It has something to do with the dynamics. But to really paint the whole picture of what makes that type of amplifier so responsive and so just kind of grinchy, that's the word that I use to describe it, grinchy. In a very kind of rock and roll kind of way. It's just a hard thing to describe. And I know from spending too much time on Facebook and Catalinbread's site that they spent an awfully long time trying to pin down precisely what makes an AC30 sound and respond the way it does, and spent a long time trying to tune this pedal to reproduce those essential qualities. And to my ear, they've done it. They've done it better, I will say, than other attempts that I have experienced in pedal form, some of which were quite good, but either we're doing something that didn't really feel that much like an AC30, or in the sort of less good cases were kind of giving us a little bit too much of a caricature of how an AC30 sounds. This does not do that. I don't know how they did it, but they did it. And to kind of emphasize how well they did it, I just want to give you a sense of the clean tone I'm working with. It's a Car Rambler, which is a sort of blackface Fender sounding amp. It has some qualities of a kind of low-powered tweed Fender amp, but it's definitely nothing like an AC30. We're working with a pretty dark, clean sound, but a very clean sound. In other words, no distortion coming from that amp even when I hit it hard. It has a kind of ringy Fender quality to it, not a clangy and grunchy Vox quality to it. Turn on the pedal, and we have very different beast. Now, as in all of these videos, I don't try to give you a sense of the full range of sounds that a given pedal can produce, because that would be boring. And I'm not actually sure it would help you that much more than... I do want to help you, but I'm not sure that would be more useful to you than what I do, which is try and give you a feel for maybe one or two of the things that a pedal does very well, so that you can kind of extrapolate whether it's in the universe or something you want to check out further. But I will tell you this pedal has patrizing range. The way I have it set right now is kind of important to understand because it's a little counterintuitive. Well, it was for me. There's a bass and a treble knob, and a volume and a gain knob. I have the gain maxed, by the way, so this thing is capable, of course, of much more subtle ranges of gain, or will work just great with a humbucker, even if you want lower gain sounds. But I also have the treble and bass turned up to about 3 o'clock here. And the reason I've done that is because the way this EQ is designed is to basically have the mid-range kind of fixed, and if you want to kind of scoop it out and get that particularly chimey quality that AC30s and their brethren, or amps, male, sisters, I don't know, are known for, you do that by cranking the treble and bass, and you get, therefore, a relatively scooped mid. If we go to 12 o'clock here, we're going to get a flatter frequency response that emphasizes more of the kind of full range of frequencies that a Vox typically puts out. And if we reduce the treble and bass, we're going to get a mid-range focus that can really cut and maybe has more of a Brian May sort of lead sound. If you really kind of went to an extreme, maybe you could get, I haven't actually tried this yet, but I mean, another famous user of AC30s is John Schofield. Maybe you could get some, roll back the tone control on your oh, that doesn't sound so good here. More mid-range emphasis, less clang, more grunt. And if we roll back the gain, we'll see that all of these extreme settings of the EQ controls yield highly musical and usable sounds. At lower gains, a very mid-range focus, but still highly usable sound. And if we go back up with the bass and treble at this medium gain range, chimey, clean sound that, again, for reference, is very different than the bass sound underneath coming from the amp. This transforms the amp, and it's very dynamic, very, very clean with light picking. Very natural response. Very usable through the full range, a kind of a dual distortion pedal unless you need really high gain. If your sort of tendency is toward these types of sounds, it's a very flexible pedal. There's one other thing I wanted to point out. Part of what Catalinbread is going for, if I understand them correctly, with their pedals that seek to emulate a certain type of amp, is the ability to use the pedals as if they are an amp. In other words, to stack other pedals upstream and still have the amp emulating pedal respond as the amp would with such pedals stacked upstream of the amp. I think you understand what I'm saying. I'm actually not sure if that made any kind of sense. So, we're going to try stacking something. What is that, you say? Well, it's a pedal I built from a kit. And decorated myself. It's called the Tasso Drive. Thematically, it has to do with a variety of things. The central theme is of an elderly Italian badger, pensionato, coffee obsessed, who had a brief history as part of the early Soviet space program. Hence the pieces of a 80s era cigarette pack from the Soviet Union on there. That's probably way more than you needed to know about that pedal and about me. But essentially, it's a DoD 250 type of overdrive, which, with the gain rolled back, is kind of like a treble boost. It's just sort of a very bright, semi-clean boost. So let's see what this sounds like in this middle gain range of the just a little bit of crunch coming from the pedal, and we hit it with this boost. That's with the boost. Man, it retains all the dynamism that I think you'd expect if you put a drive like this in front of an amp. And it doesn't get weird on the bottom end or the top end. It doesn't become super bright and brittle. It doesn't compress on the bottom end. They, seem to know how to do this thing. They really do. Finally, I just want to show you how nicely this pedal cleans up with the volume control. It's really, I would say it's remarkable, but again, all of their amp emulation pedals seem to do that really, really well. So again, you have a lot of control over the degree of distortion with picking, but you really have a huge amount with the volume control. It's a little bright because I have a treble bypass cap on my volume control, so it tends to stay real bright as I roll it off. Now I roll it back up. Thickens up beautifully. So, yes, it does what you want it to do. I will say this pedal is kind of a live player's dream. Of course it would work great in the studio, but the ability to really control the amount of distortion so well without any displeasing artifacts, the ability to put other pedals upstream of it and still have the thing produce the general sound of the amp you're trying to work with, and not start acting weird, those things are really nice. I run out of adjectives. What's going on here, you may ask? Well, if you watched any of the early demos I did about a year, I don't know, how long has it been now? About a year ago, something like that. I used to give awards sometimes, and I kind of stopped because just, is it really about awards? And there were times when I was tempted to give the 1/8 babushka, the 1/4 babushka, or the 1/2 babushka. But no such temptation in this case. I unreservedly and wholeheartedly and enthusiastically and just with profound admiration award the CB30 the full babushka. Until next time.